Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome our incredible next guest, Mr. Nate Woodbury, and he is the CEO of Be the Hero Studios. Welcome to the pod, Nate.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's really nice to have you along for the ride today. But before we get into what it is you do and how you do it and what makes you special, how the heck did you get into this wonderful world of media production, but also really specifically with a digital bent and really specifically with a digital marketing bent? What led you to this career?
Yeah, good question. So this goes back 15 years ago. I was a telemarketer for an internet marketing company. So I would sell their web design and SEO packages. And leads were being recycled. I wasn't making as much money as I once did at that job. And on the side, I'd been experimenting with custom websites. And so on the local classifieds, I got a couple of customers. So I decided to quit my job. The profit I had made in the previous month was $350, and that gave me enough confidence somehow to quit my job and go all in. But I got caught back on my bills a month later. So started just designing pretty websites, and it wasn't fulfilling enough for me to have a pretty website. All my clients were happy, but I wanted my clients to have visitors to these pretty websites, not just their mom and their friends. So I started figuring out SEO and getting their websites ranked on Google. And so that was working. But I still wasn't satisfied because they would have visitors to their websites, but there was no lead gen, there was no sales happening. And so I started experimenting with promo videos and putting promo videos on their website. And this is about a few years into my business. I made a discovery. I discovered that a YouTube video that we put on a website page to as one of the 50 pieces in order to get it to rank on the top of Google. I noticed that this YouTube video actually was getting 50 times more views on YouTube than the page ranking number one on Google. And that just turned on a light bulb. And I looked for more examples and kept finding them and finding them. And so I started teaching people this. I eventually just pivoted away from web design, away from website SEO. Website SEO kind of started fizzling anyway, but really honed in on YouTube. And I went all in on a couple channels initially, and those channels just took off. And not in the terms of going viral, but in the terms of they were massive lead generators. And they were impressive from the outside, but it's not like a channel like Mr. Beast. They're more educational channels. And so I've just refined that strategy for the last 10 to 12 years now. And now that we're in the age of AI, uh, we're finding that the same strategy I figured out, your videos get recommended on ChatGPT now. So it's pretty fun.
It is amazing, and it's interesting. I don't have a massive following on YouTube. I've got just over 1,000 subscribers, but I can tell you that certainly my GEO, or whatever you want to call it, the answer engine ranking. Certainly, I'm on many places. I'm not just on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Reddit, and I'm on across the internet, and I have been for a decade. But one of the things that I've noticed is I rank really well in all the answer engines for everything related to my industry and everything related to the services I provide. And it seems to me, and I'd love your take on this, it seems to me there are three primary things that seem and appear to influence the authority level in these answer engines. It's depth of content, its breadth of content, and its duration, meaning how far back can these answer engines find content from you on a topic that's being asked questions of. And to me, that feels, what is the saying they say about trees? The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. It feels like that with content, meaning, sure, you may not have been creating content a decade ago like me, but it feels like in relatively short order, with some pretty solid consistency and some pretty solid and deep expertise in your field, you can pretty rapidly build a sense of authority online. And it seems also, what's super interesting is these answer engines seem to be not only indexing YouTube videos from the metadata that they can see in the title, the description, etc. But it seems like most of them must be pulling down the transcripts from YouTube as well and indexing those as vector data, because certainly some of the information that pops up for me is actually embedded in the videos themselves. It's not in the title, it's not in the description, it's actually in the video content itself. And so it feels YouTube has waxed and waned a little bit in terms of a favorite digital marketers channel. It's fallen in vogue, out of vogue, it's come and it's gone. But it feels like YouTube in particular is having a bit of a moment with these GEO engines because it is such a rich data source for training data. And if for no other reason, it feels like it's definitely back in vogue now.
Yeah, I've been seeing the same thing. I looked at some data on the datos.com website, and they were saying that ChatGPT, the number one site it recommends is Amazon, second is Wikipedia, third is YouTube. And as you look at, then there's some more after that, but the thing that's interesting about YouTube is really the only major platform that has content that's indexable or that's searchable. You talk about their transcripts, those are made public. And so it totally makes sense. If I were to post an amazing video or an amazing article on Facebook or LinkedIn, there's no way for anyone to search for that, even on those platforms. I can't go search by topic on LinkedIn to find any articles. You have
Yes.
to search by the name. And yeah, so YouTube is just a huge, valuable resource because of that. We're still pretty effective. So we often will take the transcript from our YouTube video and turn that into a blog post.
Yep.
That tends to enhance things. The next one that I'm looking at, and you mentioned it, so you probably know a lot more about Reddit than I do. But Reddit seems to have grown a lot, and everything there is indexed. It's searchable by topic. And so that's a place that I'm also looking at. I don't know any of the data, though, as far as if these answer engines are looking through Reddit, but I assume that they are.
Certainly a lot of the answers that it gives me, ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini in particular, all of them will reference Reddit references and will actually provide links out to Reddit. So that tells me that it is actually being indexed. And at least for me, certainly it's finding my content on Reddit, and it sometimes references my content in relation to topics that I specialize in. I think the one piece of advice I would give about Reddit, and again, I'm no Reddit expert. I've only been there on there a couple of years, but I have gotten some business from Reddit, and I certainly have made some very good connections and valuable connections through Reddit. And the thing that I've learned is that like 99.9% of the accounts on Reddit are anonymous, and it's really difficult for people to find you, find your content, link back to you if you're anonymous. So I'm one of probably the 0.1% of Redditors that have an open profile. So I use my real name. I have all the links to all of my other platforms and channels and my podcast and everything else. So I think if you want to get really good cut through on Reddit and you want people to actually be able to identify you through your content on Reddit, having an open profile feels it's almost like a cheat code for Reddit. Now, if you want to have an anonymous profile to go troll people, then by all means create a second profile for that. But for purposes of business and business growth, almost think of it like YouTube in the sense that a lot of the posts that I do on Reddit are actually of my podcast episodes, which are also YouTube videos. I whenever I release a new episode, I've got a subreddit just for my podcast. I've also got my own standard profile, and I've got some other subreddits that I manage. And so I find that by having that open profile, you get a lot of referral traffic. And I can see it even in Clarity, Microsoft Clarity. I can see it in there. I can see it as one of my top referrers back to my content and back to my podcast page on my website, referral from Reddit. So it feels, again, we don't know exactly how the algos work within these answer engines, but just based on my personal experience. And look, I've been redirecting my web queries to ChatGPT with a Brave browser plugin for about, I think I'm just coming up on a year now. And so I haven't done a regular Google search. I can't remember the last time I did a regular Google search. And it's quite interesting how I liken it to the original days of Google, where it, those of us that worked in the industry and we were doing Google searches all day, every day, we started to figure out how Google worked and how to get the most value out of Google and how to get relevant answers out of Google. Because because most people that are young today, they don't remember when Google wasn't as perhaps as relevant, or it wasn't as deep into the internet as it is today. And so therefore, you had to be pretty good at being an expert Googler back in the day to get the most out of Google. And I feel like you've got to be a bit of a expert prompt engineer today to get the best out of these answer engines, but that won't last, just like it didn't last with Google.
Man, I tell you, it's been a fun experience. I use ChatGPT for so many things that every time I do it and I get the results that I'm hoping for, I'm just like, this is so amazing. And it's only like in its infancy. So, yeah, it's an amazing journey to be on. And so to go behind the scenes and how can we leverage that? I don't know. I predict it probably will happen that ChatGPT will start to have ads just like Google did,
Yep.
because they got to pay the bill somehow other than the small monthly fee I'm paying. But yeah, it's an exciting time.
It's super exciting. Now, you call your sort of YouTube strategy that you exercise with clients and you teach clients how to get better and be more present on YouTube and how to rank higher for key phrases, key questions in their industry. You call it the Leaf strategy. So, can you explain to me, just in a nutshell, what that means? What is the Leaf strategy? How does it work? And why is it so effective?
Yeah, years ago, teaching my strategy, I found it a lot of I used to put on 3-day retreats at a cabin and I would teach the strategy. And some people were getting it, but when they would start to try and find the right titles and whatnot, they wouldn't do it the right way. And I would try and deliver what's in my head. So I decided I needed some visual, and I just used a tree analogy, and that was very well received. It's helped people really try and get what I was doing in my head. So the simple explanation of what the tree analogy is: the trunk represents your core area of expertise. What is your business about, or what are you an expert in? And then you go out to the branches, and those are like all the different ways you could categorize your expertise. Eventually, we get to the leaves, and the leaves represent very specific questions that your target audience is asking. So, in your area of expertise, you've got this big tree, there's leaves all over on this tree. You don't want to make any videos on trunk or branch topics, you only focus on the leaves. And then in recent years, I've really learned that you can compare one branch and all the leaves on that branch to another branch and all the leaves on that branch. And you start to notice differences in the target audience. You recognize, who they are, what experience they have, what their demographics are, what they're looking for, if the timing is right. And so you can hone in on groups of these leaf titles, I call them. So groups of these questions, and you just systematically, I make a video on that one, make a video on that one, and you get to a place where you dominate that entire branch, so that when people go to Google or YouTube or Chat GPT and they're typing in these questions, you're the one that's recommended, you're the one that's at the top.
I guess that also plays really well with the much larger context windows of these answer engines versus a standard Google query, where once you get over about 3 words to 4 words in a Google query, the performance of Google really starts to suffer. This is pre-Gemini, obviously, and there's a lot more answers that are being generatively created by Google now at the top of search results. But in the traditional Google question and answer world, asking long form questions and getting a meaningful answer from Google was tough. It was really hard, to the point where you would oftentimes have to refine a query 2, 3, 4 times to get an answer to what you're actually looking for. And you'd have to try to be clever about basically recomposing a question down to its fundamental keyword part so that you could actually find an answer. But the beautiful thing, I suppose, about your Leaf approach is that the long tail of questions that you are recommending that your customers and clients ask and then answer with a video, that aligns perfectly with the long form type of questions people are asking and learning to ask. It's crazy. People have adapted to these answer engines so fast that people are having full on conversations and full on conversational type questions with these answer engines. And that feels like an even better fit for your strategy. It just feels like an absolute natural way in which to it's conversational. And you have, at least from the examples you gave on your website, it appears that the answers literally, the somebody types in a question, a phrased question, and then literally the title of the video becomes the answer to that question. And that's how answer engines work already. Is you ask a very contextually nuanced question and you get a very contextually nuanced answer, down to those really tiny tidbits of information all spread all across the internet, even data and information within PDFs, within online spreadsheets, within images, even. The ability for these multimodal AI engines to interpret data is so vastly superior to the old search engine model that it just feels like you're not going to, feels like you don't need to change your strategy very much, if at all, to make it relevant to answer engines today.
Yeah, it's that's been the fun of it. I went to an SEO conference a couple months ago. So all these big companies were there, and the basically every one of them that got up on stage were saying the same thing. They're talking about, okay, Google's kind of not our focus anymore. We're focusing on Chat GPT. And okay, how do we do that? Some of them were saying, we don't know. We're in a holding pattern until we can figure this out. But others were honing in on video. And I'm like, I've been trying to tell you guys video for SEO for a long time. Um, if we rewind 10 years ago and I was really developing this leaf strategy, long tail in the world of SEO is 4 or 5 words. But I was discovering, hey, if you go out to 8 words, you can find some really consistent, or you can find a whole list of consistently asked questions. Now, these aren't high volume. These might only have 10 searches a month. But when you look at the detail in the question, you're like, I know exactly who this person is. They're my dream client. Or I know exactly who this person is and they're not. So you can really differentiate. And so 8 was the max that I found back then. Today, I'm finding a huge volume with questions as much as 10 words long that still have consistent search volume. And it becomes so easy to quickly get a top ranking on YouTube. We start with YouTube. So we find a 10-word question that speaks to our audience and we record that video with that question being the title of the video, like you said. We put that on YouTube. It's pretty much like the next day it'll be ranking at the top of YouTube for that. Next, it starts showing up in Google search. And for the same reason, however ChatGPT does it, whether it just looks at what videos are ranking on the top of YouTube search, or it has access to all the transcript data for these videos where we're getting views from. And you can see this within YouTube Analytics. It says, yep, this percentage of views comes from YouTube search, this percentage comes from Google search, this percentage comes from ChatGPT. So it's been fun to watch. And it's also a validation. I actually have a fear. So 10 years ago, I feared that I was going to start developing competitors. And I haven't developed a single competitor, even though I make my strategy as well known as I can. No one's stepped up to offer the same strategy and production company and whatnot. Well, now that all these SEO companies are scrambling, trying to figure out what to do, and if they are starting to figure out video, then I think I am going to start having some competitors here.
They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so you should feel flattered if that becomes true. How do you suggest that e-commerce businesses in particular start to leverage the power of YouTube? Because in my experience, these companies, they've been so worried about textual structured data on PDPs, on PLPs, on info pages, etc., that they haven't necessarily, except for maybe 1, 2, or 3 hero products, they oftentimes have not really exercised the YouTube muscle. And so oftentimes for products, there's no video on the PDP. There's no video on YouTube that's found for them, their product, their name, their brand, nothing. And I fear that for a lot of these e-commerce brands, whether they're a D2C brand and a manufacturer or whether they're just a retail aggregator e-commerce brand, I fear that they are going to have to learn a whole new set of skills in this new world of answer engines, because of the fact that it's been such an, so they've mastered the art of pay-per-click advertising on Google. They've mastered the art of meta ads. They've mastered the art maybe even of TikTok shop. Maybe they've mastered the art of short video for shorts and maybe TikTok videos, etc. But it feels like there is definitely a lack of appreciate, unless you're a dedicated YouTuber, and of course there's millions of dedicated YouTubers, but unless you are a dedicated YouTuber, it feels like these brands have never ever exercised the medium to long form muscle, at least from a video perspective. And it feels like that is going to rapidly develop into an Achilles heel unless they start to develop that skill set. And most likely, they're going to need to develop that skill set in house to be able to do it at scale.
So the path does seem intimidating, but it's actually not as complicated as they would expect. Let's just the first product I thought of was a mousetrap. So let's say somebody has a mousetrap business. Where you start before you hit record on any camera or anything like that, you've got to just do some digging, do some keyword research. You can use the standard SEO tools because then they'll just work for the strategy. You just use the tool a little bit differently. But you look for questions about mousetraps. So people are going to be asking, what's the best type of mousetrap? Can I use them inside? Can I use them outside? How do you set one? What's the best bait? I don't know.
What's the most
Um,
humane? What's the most, all these things.
yeah. So if you're a mousetrap expert or whatever fill in the blank your product or service is, what questions are people asking about that? Or if you can go a step further, because the mousetrap might be the solution, the problem is, what do you do with a mouse infestation or whatever it is? What are the problems? And you'll find a whole nother slew of questions. And so you don't need to make entertaining content. So most of the stuff we see on YouTube is awesome and entertaining. That's why I follow those channels. But I'm not trying to build a following on YouTube. I'm trying to find, in this case, I'll just use the example, I would be trying to find people who need a mousetrap and need some expertise on catching these mice. So you're just going to make talking head videos answering the questions. And you can show things. In the case of a product, you could show the mousetrap, but just think of if you can do research and you find the questions they're asking, then it becomes easy after that. What the titles of your videos are, and then it makes it easy for you to show up everywhere that these people are looking for those answers. So that's where I start. And you don't have to worry about whether you're a big company or if you're brand new. You have expertise, and if you're willing to put in the work before you film, that'll make the biggest difference in being found.
Wow. And are you finding, so at least in my case, and I'd love to see across your cohort of clients if you're seeing something similar, I see that shorts will get anywhere from 10x to 100x the views that my long form videos will get. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because a lot of my subscribers come from viewing those shorts. So I would say that I haven't looked at stats recently, but it's well over 50% of my new subscribers. They come as a result of finding my channel through a short. So I don't see that necessarily as a downside. And because on the second page, when you're uploading a short, on the second page of the configuration, you can link back to a related long form video and it's clickable from within the short. So I see lots of benefits from shorts, but certainly conveying a message in 60 seconds or less can be a little bit more challenging than in a long form 2 to 5 minute to 10 minute to 30 minute to hour long video. And are you seeing, first of all, are you encouraging your clients to put as much research effort into short videos before they hit record as they do the long form videos? Or do you just suggest, okay, you've done the research, you've created the long form, maybe it's a 5 minute video, maybe it's a 3 minute video, whatever it is. Now we're going to additionally chop that existing video up into additional shorts, which link back to the longer form video? Or are you saying, no, you guys need to go all in on dedicated shorts content, that you do the same type of research, but you're going to compact down that information to make it bite-sized, snackable, and easily ingestible?
So there's a couple different things that I think are helpful that I can share. Is we've been doing a lot of experiments with shorts. Our goal is not views. Our goal is not subscribers. Our goal is lead generation.
Yes.
And so just for a simple example, and let's just use Mr. Beast as the example because he's the biggest YouTuber now. His goal is subscribers and then views, right? When he posts a video, he wants to get hundreds of millions of views on this video because he makes ad revenue and sponsorships and he can promote his own companies. So he just needs as many views as possible. And the reason he wants subscribers is because it's kind of guaranteed, right? You've got an audience that's built that's ready for your next video. And I'm one of those. Every time he launches a video, I watch it. When you're using YouTube for lead generation, we're trying to put videos in front of people who've never heard of us before. Market with it, not nurture, right?
Yes.
And so my focus isn't going viral. Now, viral can be good, but viral can also be bad. And I'll explain that part in a minute. With that strategy, if your strategy is lead gen, no, I do want to build followers on my email list. That's where so if you can look at each vehicle is, am I using Facebook as a marketing or nurture? Am I using my email as marketing or nurture? Nurture. Am I using YouTube as a nurture or marketing? And most people use YouTube as nurturing. I'm saying, hey, here's an opportunity because it's searchable. Instead of focusing on viral suggested traffic, let's focus on search traffic and use it for marketing. So with that kind of explanation on the side, to talk about shorts, I was really excited when YouTube came out with that feature where you could link a long form video to a short. It's like, what's the related video?
Yes.
Thinking that, let's see, if YouTube put that feature in there, they're obviously trying to drive views from shorts to longer videos. Across all the channels I tested this on over a period of several months, it was pretty uniform. It increased our views by 0.1% views on our videos, and which is not enough to get me excited about. We'll make recommendations in our end screen saying, hey, here's a video you should watch next, and we'll get anywhere from zero point 0.8 to 1 point something percent increase, which still that's small, but 0.1% was discouraging. And so we actually stopped doing shorts, and maybe we'll do some more experiments in the future, but that was the last one that we did. So to talk about, and you're right, a short will have, it's way easier to go viral and to get a lot more views. We haven't found it being the most effective to generate leads. I'm not saying there's not exceptions to that. If you run shorts and you generate leads, we'll keep doing what you're doing. For the type of content I'm experiencing creating, where it's educational content, a short doesn't give you enough time to really give a valuable answer. It also doesn't give you enough time to build a relationship. If somebody's spending, even if it's just a 10-minute video, we're not talking about a 45-minute episode here, but even if it's just 10 minutes, that gives you enough time to really give a deep answer, to really give that person value, and for them to feel like they've gotten to know you a bit. So for that reason, even though we regularly do a lot of experimenting, for that reason, our focus is still like the 10 to 12-minute episodes.
I love that. I love that. And would you suggest then also that even for somebody like me who, most of my long form videos on YouTube are my podcast episodes, my video podcast episodes, and I upload them in full after doing some basic post production editing. I upload them in full, and that's been fantastic for more of a nurturing, more of a brand building sort of an exercise, as opposed to a specific, oh, watch this video, come to my website, subscribe to one of my services. I've never really tried to create video with that purpose in mind. Would you still recommend, in terms of, I don't want to use the word virality because I think that's the wrong metric to measure this by, but would you still suggest that most podcasters should try to contextualize the titles of their podcast episodes in the context of a question, ideally? Would that usually, if you can do it, and you may not be able to do it for every single episode, but if you contextualize it within a question, does it feel like that is going to create an environment where you're going to see more interest, perhaps, than if you just have, oh, here's the subject matter of what the video is about? If we can try to contextualize the content within the frame of a question, do you think that sparks something in the viewer that causes a slightly different reaction than a generic title?
So in theory, yes. In practice, it is challenging. And so I'll give an example. Let's say we're doing a podcast discussion on productivity and increasing our productivity. In the conversation, let's say we talked for an hour and it was just super valuable, full of meat. So there's a lot of value there. And then we were to do some keyword research and find one of these really long leaf titles. I have one in my mind because I've searched for this before. So the one that I'm thinking of is how to increase productivity in a dental office.
Wow.
We
Okay.
couldn't just title that, the podcast episode, that,
No.
unless we were going to be specifically giving advice for the dentists and the dental hygienists and receptionists in the right. That's how specific that I recommend we get. And if you were to, one solution might be for a podcast, if you were to find maybe a handful of questions and say, okay, in this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about these 5 things, and they're all 5 different leaf questions or whatnot. And then perhaps after the podcast is done, you break it up into 5 different YouTube episodes, each with that title going over that section. There's some ways that we could make it work, but it just takes a bit of effort. When we if I do keyword research, and by the way, there's another one it's worded very similarly for a construction site, how to increase productivity for a construction site. So my aim then, if I were a productivity expert, is I would make one 10-minute video talking to the dental team, make another 10-minute video talking to the construction team. There's probably going to be a lot of overlap in my principles, but I'm going to be
Yes.
talking. And even though those videos will not go viral, I could guarantee that they won't go viral, but they're going to be seen by the right people. It might be
Mhm.
10 people a month that are on a dental team that watch that video, but they're going to see me as their productivity expert because I'm talking directly to them and it's going to generate leads for me. So that's the difference.
And how much, first of all, I guess my first question is YouTube titles are notoriously short. They're very limited in length. And I think it's 105 characters, whatever it is. It's whatever it is. It feels extremely short because I struggle to pare down my titles to keep them short, and I certainly would struggle to pare them down if there was a long form question that I was trying to squeeze in a title, trying to strike a balance between a really good, solid, hyper granular question within the title, the short title limitations of YouTube. Finding that balance seems hard. So that's my first question. Do you think that with the advent of Gemini and with the advent of these answer engines, that YouTube was created in an age where a lot of these titles of these videos needed to be short because they did reference a blog title, or they did reference a web page, or they did reference a search query that by definition had to be short because Google search was so shit at long form queries. So that's my first question. Do you think they will adjust the limits of titles in light of answer engines and make them, I don't know, double the length, for example, of how long a title can be? Because we can now answer a lot more nuanced questions in our videos. That's the first question. Two, have you played around with playlists at all? Because for me, I have found playlists all on a specific topic where I can get more granular within the breakup of those specific topics that I want to get more granular in an outline of subject matter. If I tie those all together as a master series underneath a playlist, then I can easily share that playlist around. I can easily link to it, and I can get a lot more specific with the title of the playlist and it allows me to have a custom description in the playlist description. It just gives me a little bit more flexibility of what I can play with by introducing the concept of an umbrella playlist.
Yeah, so in talking about the word length or the character count of a YouTube title, when I make videos that have these 8, 9, or 10 word titles, I haven't ever hit that limit. If you're to go longer, I do believe there is the character limit, like you mentioned. But with 8, 9, or 10 words, I have not hit that limit yet, which is perfect. Um, when my favorite tool that I use for this keyword research, it's called the Keyword Magic tool. That tool, only the biggest it can find is 10 word questions, which I'm
Wow.
hoping that'll expand because definitely we're typing in a lot more words than that. Now, I'm finding like usually they're complete sentences. When I go to ChatGPT, I'm typing in multiple paragraphs. So who knows what that'll look like. But right now it's still working very well. If we were to get into a 15 word question or whatnot, I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. So the other part of your question, remind me, just give me a
Playlists.
play. Okay. So for playlists, they're definitely effective in when you can have a strategy of here's video A and video B is going to be super valuable if you liked A. And if you like those two, you're going to like video C. And so it can be a way of definitely increasing watch time. I've done some experimenting and I don't know if I've actually been able to track the results from it or not, but I've done experimenting where, okay, I've created a new video and it's related to another video of mine or another video of somebody else's on YouTube, and I put them in a playlist together to try and make that connection.
Oh,
I think I think it's worth trying, but I haven't been able to track any results from that. I'm definitely getting more views on my videos because of playlists. So it is just a way of getting people to consume more, and that I do know. What I can track is I keep spreadsheets. So when I do keyword research and I'll find, say, on one branch of this tree, I'll find, say, 40 different questions, 40 different leaf titles on that branch. And I'll type every single one of them into YouTube and to check my ranking. And in the beginning, it's nope, you don't rank for that. But then I come back the next month and I'll say, oh, wow, I've got 5 yeses. So 5 of them I'm ranking at the top, and I've got 3 more that are starting, which means if I scroll down, I find myself in the top 20, or I find one of my clients in the top 20. The next month I come back and I've got more yeses. And the month after that, I've got more yeses. That's been the most effective way of just making sure that the effort I'm putting into this translates into real results. I find these questions, I make videos answering the questions, and now look, I own that space on YouTube. And then, because YouTube's kind of the place where I put my attention because it spreads to ChatGPT and Google. But then you can go into the analytics and you can see, oh wow, even though I didn't even put any effort into ChatGPT or Google, I'm getting views on this video from those places as well. So it's pretty fun.
Wow, incredible. And what are you primarily working with professional services providers, coaches, experts in their field, consultants, gurus, for lack of a better term? Are you finding better success with these types of providers or these types of businesses versus a pure play e-com business that's just selling up? They might have 25,000 products in their catalog. It feels like that would be quite broad if you were an e-commerce business, and unless you had a very small catalog, it feels like it's so broad that, again, to produce content at scale that is going to provide leads to your e-commerce business, that feels like a pretty heavy lift. Versus if you're a specialist consultant, you're a specialist coach, or you're a specialist whatever in your field, it feels like as long as your service niche is not too broad, then it feels like it would be much easier to dominate because the size of your tree is necessarily significantly smaller. The number of branches are significantly smaller. Therefore, the number of leaf nodes are significantly smaller. Therefore, the number of videos you need to produce to dominate those leaves is significantly smaller. That's my uneducated interpretation of this, but I'd love your take.
Yeah, you're spot on. So I do work with a lot of coaches and consultants. There's Because it's an educational approach, these business owners a natural fit when they have an educational component to their business. So coaches and speakers and consultants work really well. You could also look at like a financial professional. They don't sell coaching or education, but they need to educate people on finances that then leads into financial services. And like a SaaS business, I don't have any of those as clients, but I think that would be a good fit because there's a lot of training on how to use the software.
Or even
Products.
why you would need the software in the first place. That feels like there'd be a lot of questions to cover just in that alone.
Yeah, there definitely is. What problems does your software solve? So people will be searching like, how do I do this or how do I fix that? And you could present how this software solves that. So in the case of e-commerce with a huge skew of products, I do see that there would be a challenge with the example that I thought of a mousetrap. I think something like that would work well because you could really dedicate yourself and say, I am going to be the ultimate authority on mousetraps, right? So if you had a smaller lineup of products or product categories, you'd have to do the same thing for each one of those. But if you had thousands of different types of products, yeah, that would obviously be a big challenge.
And how do you find in your research, your testing, etc.? Because for a long time, people focused on blog articles, right? They said, "Okay, I'm gonna answer these type of questions in a blog article, and the blog article title is going to be the question. It's going to be the title of the page. I'm going to give the answers in text format in the page, and that's how people are going to find my website. That's how people are going to find the information. That's how they're going to find me." How do you find video compares and competes and contrasts with blogs? Now I know, and I do the same thing. I convert my long form videos into blog articles, and then I embed at the bottom of the blog article. I actually embed the full length YouTube video so people can play it right then and there. And I explain, obviously, if you want to see more about this topic, watch this YouTube video below. So I can definitely see a linkage between the two. But from a performance perspective, which one in your experience seems to do better at generating demand or generating leads in the first place? Is it video first? Is it blog first? Is it about equal? How do they fit into an overall strategy?
Yeah, great question. Because my end goal is lead generation, I love the power of video in building a relationship. So if we turn the transcript of a video into a blog post, it's going to have the same content, but it won't have the same power of building that
Connection.
connection.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what we do is we focus on the YouTube video first. get that uploaded to YouTube. YouTube automatically transcribes it. So then you can copy and paste that transcript into Chat GPT and say, hey, turn this with a few parameters, turn this into a blog post. So on our blogs, we do embed the YouTube video with the video at the top.
Oh, at the top.
And we definitely see an improvement. I can even give you a specific example. So Chad Littlefield, he helps people with their speaking, their leadership, and leading meetings and engagement and presentations and whatnot. He's, of all my clients, he's the one that we started doing. He's the one that spearheaded it, really leveraging the power of the blog in combination with his YouTube videos like this. And when you look at his analytics, how many views come from YouTube search and how many views come from Google search, they're equivalent or even slightly higher on the Google search side. And this is specific to where YouTube video views are coming from. They're coming from Google search and from his blog. It's all interconnected. We just find like they work together hand in hand. And so that's why the next thing that I'm also going to pursue is, hey, if we're already putting this content on YouTube, we're already putting it on a blog, let's learn the Reddit game and put the content there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question about it. And it's interesting because I see similar performance results on my private feed on Reddit as I do on that same content published to a subreddit. So I assumed that Reddit would downgrade content on personal profiles versus posted to a subreddit because I naturally assumed that Reddit would try to encourage people to engage with subreddits to build communities, sub-communities within Reddit itself. But my experience so far shows that's not the case, that they weight personal profile content equally with subreddit content, depending on obviously what the content is. But certainly if it's exactly the same content, and sometimes I'm literally copy and pasting, I don't do cross posting, I don't do any of that. I literally copy and paste it into a subreddit and on my personal profile, and they get the same, if not the same. Oftentimes my personal profile will get better views and better visibility in Reddit than the subreddit content will, which really surprised me. And so I think that speaks to what you're talking about here, is that if we can repurpose our video content in as many places as it makes sense to do so and is reasonable to do, it's probably not going to hurt.
Yeah, whenever my clients ask me about repurposing, I definitely don't discourage them. And if they have a platform that they like, it's, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and repurpose it all that you want. The other thing that I share, because you'll hear marketers like Gary Vaynerchuk, in my words, telling people to spam the planet, right?
Yes.
And I don't think that's very effective. And he didn't achieve success by doing that. He focused on one platform in the beginning. YouTube has a unique formula. And if you want to get your videos ranked at the top of YouTube search, you've got to follow a list of ingredients. Well, that formula on LinkedIn is completely different. If I were to
Yes.
take the same videos I make for YouTube and just post them to LinkedIn, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I've got to mix up my content. It can't just be all video.
Yeah.
I've got to have written content. I've got to have images um, and the engagements really are important. But I've also got to engage on other people's content. Um, Now, if let's say I tagged you in one of my LinkedIn posts, but you didn't reply or respond, that would penalize me.
Yeah. It gets downgraded. Yeah. Your
Right.
content gets
So
downgraded.
it's just a whole different animal. So if somebody knows the formula for LinkedIn or Instagram or any other platform, then absolutely go ahead and repurpose the content. Just package it in the way that platform needs it. Follow those ingredients. It's obviously, because if you're going to go through all the effort and energy to make a good quality video, like repurpose it as a blog, repurpose it on Reddit, repurpose it anywhere that you like if you know that formula.
Makes complete sense. How important are, we know the title is massively important because that's got to match the question that you're trying to answer. That makes sense. That's a no-brainer. That's like YouTube 101, makes sense. How important is the description? How important is the thumbnail? How important is timing of the release of videos in a given day? How important is it to not over, because I find that if I release more than 3 videos, even shorts in a day, then I get massive drop off in terms of visibility and performance. So the max I'll ever upload of shorts in a given day is 3. And I've played with numbers ranging from 2 to 10 and everything in between. It seems to be 3 is a little bit of the sweet spot there for shorts in any given day. How important are the rest of the ingredients other than the title in the success of the videos that you see with your clients?
Yeah, so here's where I'm going to differ from what other YouTube experts say, and I'm just going to stick to my bias because I don't think these other people know what they're talking about. You'll hear a lot of people talk about, yeah, you need to put keywords in your description and you need to make sure you're having the right keywords and the tags filled. But then their focus isn't search, their focus is going viral. So it's like, why are you talking about search? In my experience, the description, okay, the description's important, but it doesn't matter for ranking. You don't have to worry about keywords or anything in there. If somebody's going to take the time to find that little teeny down arrow and open up the description, or the read more thing and open the description, what are they looking for? You want to make it user friendly and you want to put links to your website or links to your free gift. I don't recommend linking to your other social platforms,
Okay.
because if YouTube sees, oh wow, this person just left YouTube and went to Facebook, yeah, they're gonna penalize you. So I don't recommend linking to what I call entrance points. Right? If I'm using YouTube as an entrance point, I eventually want them to end up on my website and my email list. Or if they enter through Facebook or even a paid ad, I don't want to send them to another entrance point like YouTube. I want to send them to my hub, my core, my website, or my email list. So in the description, I'm giving them resources like, hey, do you want this resource? Do you want that resource? Do you want my calendar link? Do you want to watch my webinar? And so that they go to your website. Okay, rapid fire about other things. And you list off several questions. I try to remember them all. What
That's
do you
all
want me
good.
to say?
Like the thumbnail, does that matter?
Drastically important.
Yes.
It was important 10 years ago, but today everyone's gotten really good at thumbnails. We've had to really improve our system.
Thumbnail
Uh,
game.
Yeah, we leverage AI a lot. We don't have the end output be created by AI because it's still not there. But AI can help us a lot with creativity, and really, because creativity is exhausting. And I've got a team of 5 or 6. I'd have to count them by name, but we'll just say 5 thumbnail designers on my team. And when they're just creatively designing thumbnails all day long, now we incorporate AI to come up with some ideas, and then they can just say, all right, I got that really quick. It's turned out really well. You're not going to have success if you don't take the time to create a thumbnail that creates curiosity. And we use Photoshop, but you can design a great thumbnail using a free tool like Canva. But yeah, you got to do it.
Love it. Cool. That's great because I do create custom thumbnails for all my videos in Canva, and I don't think I've necessarily hit on the perfect formula for creating a thumbnail, but I always try to keep them at least interesting and at least they're different with every video so that they can be differentiated. So I think that's important. What are as we come down to the end of our time together, and I really appreciate your time, an hour has absolutely flown by. When someone comes and engages with you for the very first time, do they usually already have a YouTube channel and they've been fumbling along in the dark trying to figure it out on their own, and that you help them level up? Do they come to you with no channel and they go, look, I want to get off on the right foot. I want to start out strong. I want to start out with good, because it seems like Google rewards success with more success. It just seems to be the way the way YouTube works. And so I feel like it's almost like on Amazon. You got to start off strong on Amazon. Otherwise, you are forever lost to the algo. What are the stages that most of your clients come to you at? And what are the 1, 2, 3 things that you see over and over again that they're doing wrong if they're already trying to do video today?
Okay, so the size of their channel doesn't matter. Often, and that's unique to this leaf strategy, right? It does matter if you're trying to create a Mr. Beast type
Yeah.
YouTuber channel. But what really helps gauge success is how much momentum do you already have in your business, regardless of YouTube, right? Are you a 7-figure business? Then it's, yeah, I can help you leverage YouTube to generate an additional 7 figures. Let's run with this. But here's something that's interesting. There's been a handful of cases where people have come to me and they've had a significantly sized YouTube channel, but we haven't been able to get traction on it. So we launch a brand new channel and the exact same videos take off there. And what a comment that I made earlier that I didn't finish was that you can actually hurt your channel by going viral. So let me explain this. When you have a business, you know who your audience is, you know who your dream clients are. And so when you build a channel, you want to attract these dream clients, this target audience, and curate it and protect that audience. Whereas with a channel like Mr. Beast, you just make content that gets as many views as possible, and you follow your audience. Whatever they're wanting you to create, whatever they're wanting to watch more of, it'll direct what content you create. So it's kind of two different, going in opposite directions, really, of you're following the audience versus you're protecting your audience. So on my Nate Woodbury channel several years ago, and I'd made many hundreds of videos talking about YouTube strategy or entrepreneurship, I made a video titled Why I Hire People in the Philippines. And that video did well for my audience, but it actually took off and went viral for Filipinos. They loved that I was talking about their country. They commented a ton. Many of them were hoping I would hire them. And I was excited about that. This was like my first major viral video. And so I made more videos talking about the Philippines. When I went to visit my team, I vlogged about it and I put in those videos, did well. And then I started to wise up and realized, wait a minute, I've got several tens of thousands of subscribers added to this channel now. And when I post a video on YouTube strategy, they don't like it. They don't
Hmm.
watch it. And the YouTube algorithm is telling me, hey, Nate, don't make videos on YouTube strategy. Talk about the Philippines. Right. So I ended up having to delete all those videos, completely remove them. I moved them to a different channel of its own. And it's been a big chore. Like, uh, if I would have known how hard it was, I would have just started a brand new channel right then. But I've been redirecting that channel, and it's worked. But I also launched a brand new channel at the beginning of this year, and I'm getting more results on for the YouTube strategy content. So, moral of the story is you've got to really take a look at your audience. And if you looked at a YouTube channel right now and said, should we continue to build on this channel with the leaf strategy or should we launch a new channel? We'll look at, okay, what content is being viewed right now? What are the topics that they're watching? What are these subscribers most interested in? And if it aligns with this direction we're going to go with the leaf strategy, then great, let's just build on top of that. But if there's any concern or anything like that, let's just start fresh. It's um, small businesses, brand new channels, we can start to get results within just a few months.
Wow, absolutely amazing. You're making me question everything about my YouTube strategy now, especially as it relates to my business. And it feels like I almost need to, because my primary channel today is almost exclusively based on my podcast content, and that isn't directly designed to drive business. It's not directly designed to drive leads. It's purely entertainment, primarily entertainment mixed with a little bit of education. It is not designed to drive business primarily to my consulting business. And so I feel like maybe starting a YouTube channel dedicated to all the topics that I consult around feels like that, instead of just trying to mix them all together and mash them all together into the one entertainment channel underneath my personal brand. It feels like that I could get a lot more targeted without it disappointing my core cohort of people that follow me for the entertainment value, not necessarily the educational value.
The logic makes sense. If you use your existing YouTube channel to continue to nurture that tribe, that following there, and then leverage another YouTube channel that has more of that marketing approach that would lead into your consulting. Yeah, and anyone that wanted to follow you, there people will find you anywhere that you can just let people know, yeah, I've got two different channels. I it I can understand the emotion
Yeah.
because logically in my head, I'm like, I could just start a new YouTube channel, but I look at the number, but it's 60,000 subscribers. I can't abandon that. So it's an emotional thing. But now that I've done it, now that I've helped a lot of my clients, it's actually, you're going to get faster results if you start a brand new channel.
I love that. I love that advice. That is fantastic advice for us to finish on. I will link to your LinkedIn profile and your YouTube channel in the show notes and your website, of course. Other than that, how do you like people to get a hold of you if they want to chat all things YouTube strategy?
Typically, every week or two, I do a webinar where I give a lot of visuals and I show a lot of examples teaching in depth that leaf strategy. So I'll extend an invitation. The link is theleafstrategy.com, and anyone that's interested can join my webinar.
I love that. That's absolutely amazing. Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal or professional. Mr. Nate Woodbury from Be the Hero Studios, what is your question for me today?
All right. So, with your consulting, where do you find the most fulfillment?
I find the most fulfillment in all of it. I optimized my, because I've only been doing this for 5 years as an independent consultant, although I've been in the industry for 25, and I optimized the everything about my business from day one. I was optimizing for freedom, not revenue. And what I mean by that is I had spent years running and building agencies and running and building brands and doing all these things, which is great. And it was a lot of fun. And I learned a truckload along the way. But what I discovered was, particularly when you're building even a mid-size agency with 30, 40, 50 people in it, you oftentimes have to work with clients that you don't necessarily think are a perfect fit, or that you don't think you can necessarily perfectly help. But you have to take certain jobs that you would normally say no to just to keep the team fed, just to keep the mouths fed, just to make payroll. And I swore to myself with my independent consultancy, I would never ever do that. And that I would optimize for freedom. I would optimize for location freedom primarily, that all of my clients would be remote clients. They would never have any expectation that I would ever meet them in person. And I just set out to do that and court exactly those types of clients. And it's worked out that way. We live in Mexico. Occasionally I get to see my clients, because when I'm traveling to the US for conferences or whatever, then if I'm in the area where my clients are, then it makes sense to go and visit them at their offices or whatever. But my clients have zero expectation they'll ever see me in person. And I get to say no a lot more than what I was able to say when I was in the agency space. And I'm fortunate enough that I have a full enough pipeline that I can actually say no without it killing my income, and actually being a lot more selective about where I think I can genuinely help a business move the needle. And that level of freedom to be able to say no a lot more than I say yes is the part that probably makes me the happiest, because it's not only good for me, it's actually good for the client too, because it means that I'm not taking on jobs that are just left of center, just right of center, that they're really right up my alley of where I think I can really benefit that business in a massive way. And so that is probably the most fulfilling part of this, is that I've been able to get a lot more granular with my ICP, and I haven't had to go broad. I think niching down is actually a superpower, and I've tried to exercise that in my business, and it's been hard. It's as I've niched down further and further over the last 5 years, I've just got more and more narrowed down on the type of ICP that I work best with, that it sometimes feels like you're giving up opportunity when you do that. But in my experience so far, it has been an absolute superpower. It has benefited me. It's benefited my clients, and it hasn't limited me. It's actually opened up the ability to do better work, better quality work with better quality clients, with that where we get better outcomes. And that is probably the most exciting part about what I do.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. Listen, it's been absolutely fabulous talking with you. I thank you for sharing your wisdom with me and my audience. I wish you every success, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Thank you so much. If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.